If we can start, hopefully we're going to have the other microphone soon. But welcome to City of Palo Alto. My name is Homer Mayel. For those of you that don't know me, I'm acting building official in the city. And today we're going to go through code amendments for City of Palo Alto. Those are the California Title 24 that I'm sure some of you have already purchased it with all the amendments that California has put in. And then there are some local amendments that City of Palo Alto has that are exclusive to Palo Alto. So we're going to go through that, and then we'll open it for question and answers. Before doing that, we have one person here, Catherine Elbert. I asked her to be here in case you have any questions on utilities. She is here. I know she has on a tight schedule. She is supposed to leave at 2 o'clock. So if you have something, pardon? Okay, but if you have a few words you want to say, go ahead. And then if there are any questions, and then we'll start our program.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Catherine Elvert. I work for the City Utilities Department. I am in the Marketing Services Group, which basically deals with efficiency programs for energy efficiency and water efficiency. So Homer asked me just to talk about some of our utilities programs and how that relates to building, new construction, and also renovations and whatnot. Because historically, utilities has been mandated, and also we've acted in good measure in the community to offer incentive programs for our residents and our businesses to improve their energy efficiency and water efficiency. There are mutual goals. One, we have legislative mandates we have to meet. Two, it's great for builders. You can promote green with our climate protection plan goals and continuing mandates through AB 32. We are going to see those goals continue. We're going to see those mandates continue. But then also it helps our utility users save money, and we live in a very environmentally progressive community, so that's something that our community does want. So we do offer financial incentives for both new construction and renovation for our residents and our businesses, and I'll just give a high-level overview, but I wanted to provide you with this information so that when you're talking to your customers, you are aware of what we do have to offer, so that you can refer your customers to the utilities group or through Homer or whomever you're working with, a project manager, so we can inquire as to what is possible for your customers. So for businesses, we offer a new construction rebate, and that historically has been for businesses to build their buildings at a certain percentage above the minimum requirements for Title 24 energy efficiency standards. Now, we also offer a similar program for our residential customers. They are structured a little bit differently. I'm not going to go into the weeds, but for our commercial customers, we offer a design consultant. So we can look at we're using somebody who has expertise in the area of large HVAC systems, building envelope, lighting, etc. And for our residential customers, we can provide in-house consultation on some of the efficiency measures that they can utilize to go above that Title 24 standard. Now, with the adoption of the 2013 Cal Green, we're going to see these Title 24 energy efficiency standards increase. Specifically, the California Energy Commission is coming out with some new standards. So we're going to need to evaluate moving forward how we're going to offer our incentive programs. Basically, it's getting more and more buildings need to be built to higher and higher efficiency standards for lighting, for HVAC, for insulation, for building envelope, etc. So we'll continue to work with the building department on how we want to offer incentives to our customers. And the same goes for our residential customers too. Whatever platform we use, whether it be Build It Green or LEED or Cal Green, we'll see what we can do to continue to make our housing stock more and more efficient, whether that's net zero or whatnot. So we also offer incentives for retrofitting both commercial buildings and residential facilities. So through lighting, also through retro commissioning, and also through just basic appliance rebates, appliance retrofits, replacements, upgrades for residential and commercial. So anytime you are engaging in a tenant improvement project, any sort of alteration, we always encourage people to contact our group to see if we can offer some sort of financial incentive. Often when a measure may be considered green and goes above the minimum standard, the return on investment can actually be recouped within a very short period of time to make it cost effective and attractive for your customer based upon the financial incentives that we have to offer. So we also are responsible for ensuring enforcement with our solar requirements through SB1. We have various water efficiency requirements through our Water Conservation Act of 2009 mandates that we need to achieve a 20% water reduction per capita, basically per person, by the year 2020. So we offer standard rebate programs, audits, et cetera, for all of our customers, and we're moving toward innovative technologies for capturing more and more savings as the code continues to increase in efficiency standards, and that ceiling, that floor continues to rise and rise. The margin of savings we can claim for our mandates is becoming slimmer and slimmer. We're finding that we have to rely more on innovative, advanced metering technologies, behavior-based programs, and so you'll see more of that coming from the utilities. And we had a meeting this morning. Some of you were in attendance. We talked about how we're going to provide information on energy consumption, water consumption to our customers, and how we're going to also convey that to the community in an open data forum. So we have many different platforms that we are currently piloting for both advanced metering, which some of you may know as smart metering. That's the term that PG&E has patented it. Basically advanced metering, real-time metering for electric, natural gas, and water. We've got different platforms we're piloting for our residential customers, and that may look different on the commercial side as well. So this is all going to factor into our evaluation of what the utility rolls out on the infrastructure side. And we really want to be able to provide the tools to our users to actively manage their resource consumption. And we'll be working with the building department on seeing how that translates to any requirements we have for reporting on improvements in energy consumption through building commissioning, and again in that open data forum. So that's just real high level. May I answer any questions at this time? Okay. Oh, yes, sir. I'm sorry? So we have information at the development center, so you should be able to find who to contact there. And I will continue to provide updates to the necessary management there and the staff to ensure you don't get the runaround in the city. But also, if you want to call the city's main line, you can always say, I'm interested in learning about an energy program, and they generally know who to direct you to. I saw a hand over here. Okay, great. Yes, sir. Yes, we as a public agency need to offer programs that are deemed cost effective. So we will look at a total resource cost analysis of any potential financial incentive we want to offer our customers. So we'll look at the cost to the utility, the cost to the user, the cost of the avoided supply if we were to otherwise purchase that electric supply, that water supply, or whatever, and we have a very complex analysis, and we'll look at that cost-benefit analysis and deem whether it's cost-effective. So what we have to be careful of is, actually, it's a silver lining in California. Our building codes, our plumbing standards continue to increase in efficiency, and so that's great from an environmental perspective. It helps us to achieve our climate protection goals, et cetera. We're becoming more and more efficient. As a utility, operating upon mandates, like I said, that margin of active savings we can claim from various programs is growing slimmer. So we're reevaluating some of the programs we offer. So we're providing customers with tools to actively manage their consumption and be active managers of their homes, their building stock, et cetera. So you'll see more and more smart technologies, building management systems, even for homes. My name is Catherine Elvert. Mm-hmm. So one thing that you all might want to take a look at is the California Energy Commission checklist, CEC. They have some new regulations for insulation, alterations, and new construction, HVAC, lighting, etc. And they're basically raising the bar a little bit compared to current code. So I would recommend you get a hold of that checklist so you can start delving into that now. And the utility is always here to offer any assistance. Thank you.
Okay. So we're not going to get the other microphone. So with that, we're going to start the presentation. California Code of Regulations, which is known as Title 24, has 28 titles. There are so many different ones. For instance, Title 13 is DMV, that most of us have dealt with it. But Title 24 is the one California Building Standard Code. And that title by itself has got 13 parts to it. Part 2.5 that was added recently a few years ago, that's the residential code. They came up with 2.5 so they can put it right next to the building code. And then after that is Part 3 electrical, and then mechanical code, plumbing code, and then Part 7 used to be elevator code, and they moved that to Title 8, so that's not being used right now. So all the way down, and then the most recent one is Part 11, which is CalGreen. These are the codes that we enforce. On the right is the National Model Code, which is I-Code, 2012 I-Code, IBC. We have also 2012 IRC, Residential Code, and Fire Code, and so on. California takes those codes, and then a year later becomes 2013 California Code, which is on your left side. And if you haven't purchased it, that's how it looks like. In fact, and then California makes its own amendments, which makes the code much thicker than what IBC is. And then every jurisdiction adopts it through some ordinances and with some amendments. If they choose to make amendments, they will make those amendments. And they have to go, we went through City Council last week, actually a week from last Monday. And it was approved by the council for the first reading, and then the second reading will be November 18th, and then after that, January 1st will be effective date of that code with Palo Alto amendments. If a jurisdiction chooses not to have their own amendments, they are just adopting what California code is, and again, January 1st is the effective date. In fact, for your information, 2015 I-Code is already finished, completed. 2015 IBC, IRC, IFC, they're all completed. They are not printed yet, but I think IBC 2015 is going to come out probably in March or April. And then that will become 2016 California Code that will be effective January 1st of 2017. Okay? They're way ahead of us. I'm going the other way. Okay, in Palo Alto, if you go to, I have the website, right? This thing doesn't work. Anyway, I have the website on the bottom. If you go to California, to Palo Alto Muni Code, all the California codes that we have adopted are in Chapter 16. For instance, 16.04 is where we have California Building Code, Historical Code, and Existing Building Code all lumped up in 16.04. And then Mechanical Code is 16.05, 1606 is Residential Code, 1608 is Plumbing, 1614 is CalGreen, and then 1616 is our Electrical Code. And Fire Code goes into another chapter, which is 1504 and 1505. Okay. Yes, thank you for mentioning that. I didn't print it purposely to stay green because there are like 65 of these slides. But I have a sign-up sheet here, and I'll give you my email at the end also. If you like to have a copy of these, I'll be more than glad to email them to you. Absolutely. Yes, sir. Part which ones? Right. Yes. In fact, I'm going to go through that later on. I'll show you that which part of. Actually, we have adopted the entire California existing building code, which is 2 chapters out of international existing building code, and then we have adopted the other 3 chapters from international existing building code, make it 5 chapters. I'll go through that later. Yes. Okay. The first one we're going to tackle is California Residential Code, which is part 2.5. I keep going the other way, sorry about that. Appendices. We have adopted 3 appendices. By the way, most of these changes I'm showing you are not new. They were in previous adoption. Those are the new, I'll mention them to you. But Appendix G and H, swimming pool and patio covers, we adopted those from California Residential Code. And then sound transmission also, we adopted it. The appendices, you don't automatically adopt. So if you adopt the California code, by default, you're adopting all the chapters. However, the appendices, you have to adopt them individually. And if you don't mention them, that means you're not adopting any of them. So here we are adopting only G, H, and K, and other appendices, A, B, C, whatever they are not being adopted in Palo Alto. The K is the sound transmission, and that's the one that addresses sound transmission in duplexes, because residential code addresses single-family dwelling, duplexes, and townhomes. So that's what it is. Continuing with California Residential Code, in Chapter 1 Administration, we have demolition permit, which we, by the way, in the parentheses, I say added or amended. That means that section was added in Palo Alto. You don't find that in the California code. So demolition permit was added in California, and in Palo Alto. And in there, I'm just putting a brief of, it's much longer than that, but what we require is affidavit from the owner that nobody is living in the unit before they apply for demolition permit. Yes?
Does that mean demolition of the whole building or demolition of part of the building?
Demolition of the whole building for sure. Partial demolition, if anything that would require the occupant not to be in the building, yes. And then continuing with refund, we have amended that one. That's 80% of the fees. If there is no work is done, you'll get 80% back. The other 20% goes to administration costs. Floodplain inspection, that's also amended in the code. Public Works Department needs to approve elevation certificate to review and approve before we do foundation inspection. Continue with the administration section of the code. Reinspection, we added also that one in there. Reinspection fee will be levied if no inspection card is on site, if no approved plans are on site, no access provided to the inspector when he comes for inspection, and work is different from what shows on the plans. Table R301.2-1, I don't have it here, but that's a table that, in fact, if you have noticed it, is always blank in the code, and it leaves it up to the jurisdiction to fill it out. And a lot of jurisdictions just shine it. They don't, they say it's not important, but we filled it out this time. It just gives the local information as far as what's the yearly temperature of the city, what's the annual rainfall. Because when you look at the residential code, there's at least 10 to 12 different parts of the code that make a reference to that table, assuming that the table is already filled out. So this time we filled it out, okay? Window well fall protection, this section is added. This is not even in the code, and I'm tempted to bring it up in 2018 code, see if I can put it in the IRC code. Window well fall protection, normally what they do, they put some kind of grate on top of the window well, That doesn't work out very good because you could always put some boxes on top of it, or a car can be parked on it. So person that's coming out from the basement, he or she cannot push that grate up to get out. So we required that to have guards around the window wells. And some of you are already doing that anyway. And then if you choose, and then of course that has to have a ladder, and then if you choose to have a gate, then there are some requirements for the gate. Okay, but you don't have to have a gate. Oops. Security bars, we added that section also. That section needs to have fire department review and approval, okay, before we allow it. Here we're coming to 1 and 2 family dwelling automatic sprinkler systems. The next few slides are about sprinkler systems. Throughout all the new basements, you're supposed to have, I think I might have gone a little bit, no, okay. Throughout all new basements, it's required to have automatic sprinkler system. Throughout existing basement that are expanded more than 50%, you need to have a sprinkler system. Oh, go ahead. The floor area, yeah. I have a fire marshal here. Acting fire marshal, by the way, Rich Dean is here, and Rich, you want to chime in? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Throughout all new buildings located in wildland urban interface fire area, except if it's a U occupancy like a garage or shed that's less than 500 square feet, they have to have that sprinkler system. Also, throughout all the existing buildings located in wildland urban interface, when you make any addition or alterations, there's one exception there. The wildland urban area, by the way, I thought I had the definition here, which I think I may have it later on, but this is pretty much the area west of 280, and wherever department, state fire marshal declares it as wildland urban interface. Yes. For existing buildings, that's what the ordinance says, right, Rich? For existing buildings. Okay, and the system is always for single-family dwelling. You can have 13D or section R313, which is in the residential code, either one. Required sprinkler locations. This is going back to single-family dwelling now, not necessarily those that are in wildland urban area. All areas of dwelling units, garages, group U occupancy, attics, there's an exception for the attics. In non-wildland urban area, non-usable attics only above scuttle and heat-producing equipment. In the attic, if it's not in wildland urban area, you can put the sprinkler head only if you have some kind of water equipment in the roof. Heat equipment, or where you have the scuttle when you're opening into the attic. Smoke protection, smoke detection and notifications, they have to comply with UL 217 and FPA 72. They are not supposed to be older than 10 years. within 20 feet of a kitchen, bathroom, or a room containing stove or wood fireplace to be photoelectric detector or detector or alarms. No, bathroom was always there, wasn't there? Yeah. Pardon?
What was the question? Whether it was, I'm not familiar that it was near a bathroom. I remember it was near a kitchen or a fireplace. So I didn't realize the bathrooms were a dangerous place for the fire.
Yeah. Okay, and in all other required locations, dual sensor photoelectric ionization detectors or alarms, a fire alarm system with smoke detectors may be used in lieu of smoke alarm. Okay. Roofing requirements in wildland urban interface has to be minimum class A fire retardant. This applies to all the new roof, and if they are doing any re-roofing, then that's 50%. If you're doing 50% or more, then it has to be class A. Foundation on expansive soil. This table is in actually table 1809 is in California building code. It's not in residential code, but we brought it into residential code because there wasn't anything in residential code that would substitute that. So we have added that in the residential code, and we have a little bit modified it, but nothing big change really. It's still you need to have minimum 20 inches from the dirt. That's the big thing, but other than that, it's pretty much the same. Anytime you make any repair, replacement, and alterations, a spark arrestor is needed. Now we're going to California Building Code. This is part 2 of Title 24. And here we have only adopted one appendix, which is Appendix I for patio covers. So other appendices are not adopted. And then in Chapter 1, I didn't repeat all of the Chapter 1 because Building Code and Residential Code, they both have the same Chapter 1 administration. So I mentioned some of them in residential and some in Building Code. By the way, any amendment that we make in Palo Alto, we have to justify it to the state. The amendments that we are making, which is different from California Code, cannot be less restrictive than California Code. Has to be more restrictive. And even then, it still has to be justified with California Building Standards Commission. Administrative sections don't have to be, but anything other than the administrative section has to be justified. And justification has to be based on topographical, geographical, or geological. Any of those 3 items that is unique to Palo Alto, then we can make that change in the code and say because of geological of San Andreas Fault close to Palo Alto, we have to make this change. Or because of the west side of Palo Alto being in hilly side and it takes a while for a fire truck to get there to put the fire out, then we need so and so. So those have to be justified, which we already have those. And when we send them to the state, that has to be filed with the state also. Any changes to energy code has to be filed with California Energy Commission also. So this one is administration code chapter. Here it says that lowest floor elevation to be submitted to Department of Public Works for inspection and approval prior to foundation. And I think I repeated that before. Okay, automatic sprinkler system again. All new buildings except for A, B, E, F, I, L, M, S, and U, less than 1,000 square feet, they're exempt. All existing buildings when seismic retrofit triggers, okay? All existing buildings, this is continuation of the previous slide, all existing buildings when change in occupancy or use, and if the building is equal or bigger than 3,600 square feet, so that it puts it in a more hazard occupancy or group of a division of the group occupancy, then this could trigger also. For instance, if you're going from B occupancy to H occupancy, and this will trigger. All existing buildings, when modification, create increase in fire area to more than 4,100 square feet, or modification equal or greater than 100% of the existing buildings, whichever is more restrictive. Now, that 4,100 square feet came from what we used to have was 3,600 square feet, and then there was a margin of 500 square feet. So now we just put it all together for 4,100 square feet. Continuing again with sprinkler system, all new basements, just like the other one, residential. And again, if you are expanding by 50%, you need to have that, sprinklers. This is the definition of wild urban interface fire area that I explained to you. It's a little bit longer, but I put just a piece of it in there. It says any area west of 280 and all other areas recommended as very high fire hazard severity zone by Director of California Department of Forestry. I told you fire marshal, but that's forestry. Okay, automatic sprinkler system, continuing again with, this is the same as what we had in residential, basically. Okay. NFPA 13R is allowed in R1 and R2, 1 to 4 stories in height. So if you want to put full 13, you're okay. Am I right? Okay. If you want to put full 13, you're okay, but as a minimum 13R is allowed as long as it's not more than 4 stories in height. And then attic and usable crawl space is added that they require to be sprinkled as well. Single and multiple station smoke alarms has to comply with AUL 217 and FBA 72, again, not older than 10 years, and the same as what we had in residential code. This was the same as residential code. We have also, this is added in the code in Palo Alto, roof guards at interior courts. This has always been there, which if you have courts that are bounded on all sides, you're supposed to have guardrails 42 inches. And this is mainly for protection of firefighters when they go on the rooftop in the darkness. They don't know that there's a court in the middle of the building, so they don't go over. So if there is a court that is bounded on all sides, then you have to have that 42-inch guardrail, and then the intermediate rail should be not too spaced that a 12-inch sphere can pass through. Roofing requirement, again, in building code, Class A fire retardant, and again, applies to all to new structures, and if you are doing more than 50% re-roofing, you need to have that. Concrete construction, no special inspection is required if the structural design of the footing is based on F'(C) of not greater than 2,500. There are times that on the plans an engineer or architect specify 3,000 or 3,500 PSI concrete, but the design is actually based on 2,500. If the design is based on 2,500, then we're not going to require special inspection. It would be a good idea to specify both of those on the plans to say design is based on 2,500, but we're requiring 3,000 or 3,500. That's great. You're requiring something more than what design is asking for, but there won't be any special inspection. In fact, this was, this reminds me to discuss another thing with you guys. The 3 chapters of ICC, Peninsula chapter, East Bay, and Monterey chapter, they have a committee called Tri-Chapter Uniform Code Committee, TUCC. We meet once a month, the second Thursday of the month from 1:15 until like 3 o'clock at the city of Milpitas. We bring up issues with the code interpretation, and we try to make a uniform code interpretation throughout the region, so that if you go from one city to the other, you won't be shocked with different in requirements. This was one of the things that was brought up in TUCC, and in fact, if you go on East Bay, ICC East Bay chapter, which I hate to say that it's better than Peninsula chapter, they have a lot of these policies and procedures that we agreed to. They have posted them on the website. There are some really good ones. We posted them on the website so that if a jurisdiction wants to adopt some of those, it's already there. So this is one of them that we all agreed that, you know, if it's, in fact, this can be also for a pier and grade beam. Foundation table has been modified, same as what I had in CRC. Bracing, as you all know, there is about 8 or 9 different methods of bracing in conventional construction. Lead and brace and gypsum board is eliminated. They were never, well, lead and brace was eliminated a long time ago, and gypsum board probably a few cycles ago. Attachment of sheeting to the ceiling. This is, again, conventional construction where you don't have shear walls, but you have braced panels. The code doesn't say how you're going to attach the brace panel to roof. But however, you do count on where the brace panels are. In the absence of any calculations, the code says you have to have so many brace panels, so many feet apart, and so on. But it never tells you how is it going to be connected to the roof diaphragm. So we have some details there. Seismic evaluation and design. Procedure for repairs. This one is also adopted by quite a few cities around here. That in the Chapter 34, we have a little bit expanded it a little bit longer, more. If you have a repair, you will do that with ASC 31 and 41. In combination, and adoption of this amendment will allow for the more readily available FEMA assistance in case of any disaster. So when I was in San Jose, we were told that to put this in the code will get you FEMA funds much easier. So we did that in San Jose. In Palo Alto, they did that last time around, and we kept it again. Chapter 34, existing structures. Let's see. Okay. What do I have here? Existing structures. Now I'm going to mechanical code. And I don't know that 34 hasn't changed a whole lot. I don't know why that is in there. I must have forgotten to take it out. Mechanical code, which is part 4 of the Title 24, we have made some amendments to that. The appendices that we have adopted are procedures to be followed to place gas equipment in operation, installation of testing oil, and then a conversion table. Kitchen exhaust makeup air. Exhaust hood system capable of exhausting in excess of 400 CFM shall be provided with makeup air at a rate approximately equal to the exhaust air rate and shall not negatively impact. So this is, maybe I can ask Brent to explain a little bit more on this one. Brent Hipscher, by the way, folks, is our applied mechanical inspector. Okay, thank you. This is new, by the way. Yes, sir. plenum?
Furnace for kitchen appliance. Makeup air for 10% makeup air for energy and bring through your heat exchanger or your oven. You can't do it for kitchen. There's a simple formula for the makeup air and the appliance, but the HRV kind of counterbalances the city. Right. The HRV is really for air quality, not for makeup air or exhaust appliance. Currently, I think you require something if there's a gas, if there's a fireplace in the residence that is now right, and that's an interconnect that provides the makeup air. The similar requirement, if you think of a commercial kitchen, commercial kitchens have a large exhaust rate. Your houses and homes now are much more tighter construction. So with the commercial exhaust rates, it's the same principle. This is just being applied because then you're getting these exhausters that are exhausting 1100 CFM, which is quite a bit of airflow. Possibly could do that. I don't know that the interconnect that you can get with an operable louver. What we typically are seeing is a remote connect that basically when the exhaust fan goes on, the makeup air comes on, and it's a pretty simple system that we've actually come up with that really doesn't cost all that much. There's two different products. We're all based on. We found one for interconnects that's used for woodworking equipment. You have a woodworking shop and you turn on the equipment, and it turns on the makeup air or the exhaust. We put those in the book for that.
Okay. Moving on. Plumbing code, part 5. Appendices that we have adopted are recommended rules for sizing the water supply system and installation standards, the 2 appendices only. Hose bibs are required for all the new commercial and industrial buildings where the building faces parallel to the city sidewalk. You're required to have a hose bib. This one here, copper or copper alloys, lead and lead alloy industrial, including brass, shall not be used for building sanitary sewer system, okay, except for domestic waste sink, traps, and short length of associated connecting. This is also existing too. We haven't added this. This is not new. Food waste disposal units and dishwasher, unless specifically required to be or permitted by the authority having jurisdiction, no dishwasher shall be connected to or discharged into any grease interceptor. This one is something that we added this year. Non-potable water reuse system is a chapter, which is chapter 16A in California Code, and we specifically specified it as something that we're adopting. Okay. I don't know why this is going back into residential again. Okay. Now we're going to fire code. Rich, you have a couple of those you want to talk about?
Let's see. Even I have a hard time reading that. Basically, on new construction or major remodels where plans are submitted, we'll be requiring a site map, kind of specific to the fire department, to be submitted, and it would have the standardized symbols, which would show where shutoffs are for electrical, stairways, elevators, those types of things. It'd be submitted in a format that would be compatible with our GIS system, And ultimately what this allows us to do is to load these into our mobile computers that are on all the fire trucks and the police cars. And we'll be able to pull up a footprint of the property and identify all the key points of the property. Is there any questions on that, or yeah? Probably a PDF. Yeah. Yeah. We'll put one on our website, but initially we'll accept pretty much all the standard architectural legends. Yeah. It'll be a condition of the final. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then in this one, we've always had this the policy which gave us authorization to remove weeds. It also encompassed combustible debris, but we wanted to include the combustible debris in the main body of the title because there was we've ran into some debate whether or not it included construction debris, materials, things like that, furniture, and so on. So it just kind of nothing's really changed. It just kind of cleaned it up and made it more clear. Everything else. And that's about it.
Okay, next one. Oops. Next one is California Existing Building Code. This one, like I mentioned earlier, California Existing Building Code has two chapters to it. A1 and A3, they adopted from International Existing Building Code. And then on top of that, we adopted three other chapters, A2, A4, and A5. A2 has to deal with reducing hazard in the existing reinforced concrete and masonry wall bracing with flexible diaphragm. Flexible meaning you apply with diaphragm. And then the other one is earthquake hazard reduction existing wood frame residential building with soft, weak, or open front walls. And then the last one is masonry infill buildings. The other two that are in California code already, one of them is unreinforced masonry buildings, and the other one is buildings with pony walls. Those are already in the code. So there are 5 chapters to existing building code. I don't know why these are, anyway. Okay, now we're going to everybody's favorite, Green Code. Green Code is part 11 of Title 24. And in the Green Code, what we have adopted all the mandatory measures of Cal Green, which is minimum requirement by state anyway. And then we have adopted appendices A4 and A5. A4 is residential voluntary measures, and in there we have adopted 2 sections specifically. And then A5, which is non-residential mandatory voluntary measures, Tier 1 and Tier 2. Yes. Yes, because remember what I said earlier, appendices are not adopted automatically unless you specify them in your ordinance. So if he hadn't said anything about A4, A5, we would have only adopted mandatory measures and that was it. A lot of cities have adopted only mandatory, like San Jose, and some other cities have adopted voluntary Tier 1. We have adopted Tier 1, Tier 2 in case of non-residential, and a whole lot more that is exclusive to Palo Alto. Like the one that Catherine talked earlier, there's a lot of other requirements on water conservations. I haven't brought everything here in the slideshow, but if you go into the Muni Code, you will see that there's a whole lot more. And our new upcoming ordinance for Cal Green is, I think, about 12 pages. But I got only a few slides here. Yes. Mm-hmm. Cumulative applies to the building. For instance, if you have a building that was designed and built new, obviously, then is a commercial building, let's say, office building, is subject to mandatory requirements and Tier 2. And then then you come back and you do the first time TI in there. That should follow the same requirement, which is mandatory in Tier 2. However, let's say 6 years later, that tenant moves out, another tenant comes in, then that is mandatory in Tier 1. So Tier 2, I mean, that 2-year is required within 2 years, and it's considered as a single project. This is similar to kind of accessibility when it says you have to accumulate the 3-year, that 20% thing that you all know about, that you have to accumulate them, and then when you go over that 140,000, then you don't have any more 20%. So this is similar to that kind of. So it says subject to the highest level of green. So whatever the shell was subject, then the TI will be the same thing. On the residential, we still have builded green for new construction, 70 points. And then for builded green for additional, 70 points is minimum. Builded green for addition, alteration equal and above 1250 square feet is 70 points. And then when you go higher than 1250, then it adds up. In the current code that we are on until end of this year, residential alterations and additions are not subject to any green requirements. Come next year, January 1st, things are going to change drastically, and residential additions and alterations with no limitation on square footage are subject to CalGreen. And so what we have done is we have said if it's 1250 and more, which we already had it here in Palo Alto, it will be the same as what it was before. If it's less than 1250, then it will be mandatory measures only, just like the state is asking for. It would have been unfair to say if you have 200 square foot addition, then you have to have 40 points from builded green. It's not going to happen. But the thing is, the last bullet, all non-compliant fixtures to comply all over the house. And that's in the CalGreen requirements. It's not Palo Alto. Pardon? No, water fixtures. Yeah, so if you have any alterations or additions to the house, regardless of which part of the house, then all the water fixtures, toilets, sinks, shower heads, they all have to be brought to water conservation compliance. Yes, sir. Regardless of square footage, yes. And this is a something that everybody's having a hard time with. But we went up and down the peninsula talking to a lot of other jurisdictions, city attorney, and so far that's what it is. Yes, yes. What structures? Yeah, I haven't seen anything in there, but there is an Assembly Senate bill actually. Senate bill, if I remember right, 407. I'm kind of blank right now, but I can email it to you. In there, it explains it. I don't recall seeing anything on historical building. However, there is, okay. Okay, I have read it, but I don't remember it. Maybe, okay, Brent remembers it. Yes, Judith.
A lot of times people don't remodel all their bathrooms at once. So if you have a bathroom that was remodeled 2 or 3 years ago, they have a 1.6 gallon.
Mm-hmm.
That has to be replaced?
1.28 is the minimum or maximum. CalGreen is 1.28.
But I thought the Senate bill said that you only had to replace
I don't think so. I think there is a definition for what the water complying fixture is, and I believe it's 1.28, but I can look at it again. Yeah.
The question is whether, if you have a 1.6 and you're not touching that bathroom,
You still,
that's sufficiently efficient, or must you replace one that's less than, say,
again, that
1.28?
that code and the assembly bill, they are saying that you are supposed to change all the. Remember, this is the code that now, if you are doing any alteration or addition, then this will trigger. Come 2017, it goes even beyond that, because anytime you do any real estate transaction, you have to do that too. It's not.
People are going to go without permits.
We're just enforcing it. Yeah. But anyway, it's a big one. And then I did a survey up and down the peninsula with different building officials. There is ICC Monterey chapter. They have come up with something, and next week Peninsula chapter has a meeting, and we're going to bring it up. They have adopted that. I didn't bring that flow chart because it's still in a draft mode. But in there, they are isolating some areas like repairs and other things. Then they have a list of those things that would be exempt from this requirement. Whether that's written in the body of the law or not, I don't think so. But if we uniformly adopt that policy, I think at least some of them we can weed out. Yes?
Political comment. What's the carbon footprint of all the kilns made to throw away all of the 1.6 toilets? And, I mean, is that helpful or harmful to the environment?
I don't know. Yes, Randy?
So a number of us have talked about how difficult this is.
Yes.
How onerous this is.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them, how do we change? There are 4 bathrooms and a sink in the kitchen and in the garage, right? It's sort of outrageous what's being asked.
I agree.
And my question is, do you know of any political upswell about this from the AIA?
No, actually, I talked to
It's like this got slipped right in and nobody said anything.
Yeah.
It's very hard for you guys to manage this, and I really do think the end result here is that people will do work without permits.
I'm not arguing with you. In fact, I talked to Craig Oliver, who is the building official for Marina, and he is the president of CALBO, California Building Officials Association, and they're pretty active in Sacramento. And we asked them to. We were disappointed that they were kind of silent when this thing went through, or they didn't notice it. I don't know. But he's going to get something from the office of Assemblyman. What's his name? The one that came up with this. No, it starts with P. Thank you, Padilla. Yeah, yeah, and some kind of writing from that office to explain it a little bit more, because the law itself is not that clear. But at any rate, you're right. These things go through Sacramento with the least amount of resistance, and then when it comes to surface, we all scream bloody murder. But you know, I don't know if there was anybody in Sacramento, AIA had any representative there or anybody, but to oppose it. But no, this is part of the code. No, this is not California amendment. I mean, this is not the Palo Alto amendment. We wouldn't dare to do that. This is California. Well, the whole green code is California code. This is new in the Cal Green, yeah, in Chapter 3. Yes.
So in 2017, all real estate transactions will require this retrofit?
Well, again, I have to read the law again. I think at least the disclosure, if not changing all the fixtures, at least.
No, but what I was wondering is if the code is already, you said that there's already, the code has been written for
14.
2014. Are there changes to plumbing fixtures that instead of being 1.28, they have to be 0.3?
No, it goes the other way.
What I read in there was the bill is directing the code to change
Mm-hmm.
in order to enforce this thing. What I recall is that in 2017, when there's a real estate transaction, you
Yeah. And then there's a lot more. 2019, it applies to all the multifamily, and it goes on and on. Yeah. Yeah. Brent. Is it 1.6? Okay. But the plumbing code still asking for 1.28. That's new. Yeah, that's new. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. In the residential section, those two that from Chapter A we adopted were on the reuse of materials. Basically, it's a very small section, A4 105.1 and A4 105.2. I have the code ordinance here. It just says, huh? No, this part of the code is basically says the things that you have to deconstruct and reuse are like doors and fixtures and those kind of things. Basically, it's on the salvage. It's nothing. I mean, something that we all are doing anyway. And then on A5.305.2 talks about recycled water infrastructure for a irrigation system. This is for multifamily here. And then construction waste reduction, we have adopted Tier 2, which is 75%. And then non-residential, like I said, is new construction is CalGreen mandatory plus Tier 2 for existing construction, CalGreen mandatory plus Tier 1. And that applies to additions more than 1,000 square feet or over alteration more than 200,000 square feet. Remember, this was 1,000, used to be 2,000 until July of this year, and that 200,000 was 500,000. So in July, state had an amendment, supplement to current code, and they changed it to that. Yes?
200,000, that's the evaluation that the applicant puts on the building permit?
Yeah. Next few, I'm sure you can't read this, but the next few slides, we have these flow charts that are posted on our website for non-residential and residential. We have put CalGreen, all the mandatory measures that we have adopted, plus Palo Alto requirements, and we have come up with this flow chart, which is pretty useful because you go through it and it tells you what you need to do for your project. This non-residential one is about 3 pages, and then residential is about 2 pages. These are good until the end of this year, and then of course we have to change them a little for next year. But go and look at them. Finally, some relevant sites. We have the first one is where you'll find our Muni code. If you go to that site of City of Palo Alto. The second of the one is Building Standards Commission. You'll find a lot of answers over there. ICCSafe.org is also another site that you want to visit. Our chapter of Peninsula chapter, and then last East Bay chapter, and I gave you that tri-chapter Uniform Code Committee page that you'll see a lot of those policies, and most of them have been adopted by cities. And finally, question and answer, and there's my contact information. Like I said, this presentation was only for Palo Alto amendments. However, those 2 codes that I showed you earlier, IBC has quite a few changes from 2009, and then California took those changes plus added more amendments. So there's quite a bit of change that you'll be seeing in next year. So there are some sessions are coming up in November and December. I have some handouts here that all these 3 chapters in cooperation with AIA, they're throwing some seminars around the Bay Area. If you're an architect, you will get also continuing educational unit with those. if I remember, there is on November 14th, there's a plumbing mechanical seminar. It's a half a day. It's repeated morning and afternoon, so you have the choice of either one. And I believe that's in San Jose. And then November 19th is a California residential code. It's an all-day seminar. And then December 3rd, 4th, and 5th is a California building code. It's repeated, so you have the choice of any of those. One is in Marina, in Monterey area. One is in Peninsula in San Jose at the UL site, I think. And the third one is East Bay in Pleasanton. So those are coming up. I mean, I would encourage you to take advantage of those seminars and learn what the changes are in regard to California code and national code as well. So with that, if there are any questions. Yes? This presentation? Yeah, if you want to put your contact information, and we'll post it on our website too, but if you want it before then, I'll be glad to send it to you, yeah. Yes? Well, Randy suggested it. We haven't thought about it because there are some local ones going on with different chapters. Some people are saying maybe half a day is better than full day seminar. We'll see if we can come up with something between now and end of the year. Myself, I've been involved with the code updates and code development nationally and locally. It's just a matter of time that I need to have some time that I can put them together. A half-a-day seminar, you were talking about good 300 slides. So it's just to make time to do that. But we'll see what we can do. If either I myself or we will bring somebody. Yes? Mm-hmm. Are you talking about training, or are you talking about the books that we have for inspection? Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm.
But, the whole idea is that you expect us to design these buildings and to submit them for plan check
Mm-hmm.
and to have it down pat so that your people can move through the plan check process much more efficiently. Your field inspectors, there still is a little bit of a disconnect with your field inspectors and what's happening in the plan check process. But if you wanted to work together, you really need to engage the architects, the plan checkers, and the field inspectors all in the same room and get us all on the same set of plans.
Okay. When you're saying to get, in what I'm trying to understand, when you're saying to get us all in one room, you mean training or a conversation?
I think it's both training and a conversation.
Okay. On big projects like multifamily, I always encourage architects to, before they submit their plans, they come in and talk to us. And on preliminary review, a lot of times Ken Hayes' office, they come in for preliminary review, and we sit down and we look through the plans, and we have any questions on exiting, on fire resistivity. I have Rich or his plan reviewer in there also to look at the fire department requirements. So we go through those plans to get those obstacles out of the way before they submit the plan. So we have that kind of dialogue, and it's free of charge. You can always welcome to call me, and we'll sit down and talk about that. Under training, again, these are available. If there is and we are, let me go back to disconnect with the inspectors and building and plan checkers. We're trying to close that gap as much as we can. In fact, on the green code, we have been training our plan checkers on the plan check, and we've been training our inspectors on the inspection. But again, we're putting those guys through this training. We're getting them close to each other. We like to, you guys also call us anytime you have a question, by all means. I mean,
And there must be materials where you're saying, there are changes in the code here. Watch this because people will miss it. You're giving them, I wouldn't call it a checklist, but it is a heads up document. If the same document was on the website, you can say, look, we know this is gonna be a trouble area. Watch out for this.
okay.
Instead of us coming in and using staff time in face-to-face, every time on all projects, if there was some kind of framework document that there'll still be things that slip through, but I know that you must be focusing in your training on those areas where you have strong suspicion people are not gonna notice the change and it's a big one. And if we had something we could refer to, it would be very helpful. And
Okay.
not just read the code, because God knows we read the code.
That's true. Great. I mean, Brent.
All of this, all of the opportunities that you explained or showed up there, they're open for the public as well as the inspector. In a forum where you should almost do the same thing we offer with the homes for and if you have questions, I remember Judith being there when Doug did the one at Community Jewish Life, and we had lots of questions, there was lots of interaction with that. Same thing, these are all open, you'll have the same opportunities that the inspectors or the plan checkers are all having. And the presenters that are there are all excellent individuals, they're well versed in the code changes and amendments.
So what you're saying is that you're sending your staff down to these.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so you're not providing the training. We did one with Doug, because at that time that was a private entrepreneur type thing. I don't believe he's doing that anymore. He's actually working for a jurisdiction now and doing code check on the side. But I would be glad to reach out to him and see if he's looking at doing something like that again. Because as you guys all said, and I agree with you, the presentation that Doug did that one particular time was outstanding. I think he did a phenomenal job, not only on the residential and on the commercial side, but he's well versed in his presentations are exceptional. But I also have to add that the folks that are doing the code updates that are up there on the table, they're all the same individuals giving you the same information, and it's an excellent venue.
Yeah, these seminars are offered by ICC itself. The hosts are the 3 chapters of the Peninsula, East Bay, and Monterey chapters, and then IEAI is also one of them. And then AIA is also sanctioning, putting their stamp on these. So, and the presenter for at least residential commercial is Paul Armstrong, who I know him personally. He's very much heavily involved with code development. But some of you guys, I heard it from Heather Young, and I think maybe Randy too, that prefer half a day because you can't be away from the office for the whole day long and drive to Monterey, Marina, or somewhere else. But so if there is a demand for that, I need to know. Email me and say, look, we prefer half a day CBC training. And then we'll come up with something. Either we'll invite somebody or I'll put something together if time allows, and then we'll do it here. But I need to know if there is an audience for that. I don't want to go through the... Yes, Randy?
I may be wrong, but I think probably 95% of this room is focused on a fairly narrow and consistent product type.
Mm-hmm.
Where all of us architects working on it, and focusing the presentation on that would be very helpful.
Okay.
The large group of the population.
Yes.
One possibility is to put on, a morning which is residential and an afternoon which is non-residential.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, people
Mhm.
that you brought up earlier for the hoods. Palo Alto right now is the only jurisdiction I know of that's enforcing that.
Mhm.
Okay, you go to any other community, I'm doing work over in Santa Cruz, they're not enforcing, actually, Tapajos is not incorporated, they're not enforcing it. Palo Alto is the only jurisdiction, so if they are, we need to know that.
And that's why we had this, yeah. Yes.
Depths of knowledge, and because one jurisdiction does one thing, does not mean that it's not required. I'm not saying. This is one of the reasons why we brought this forward, and as I said in my explanation, it's actually in the language of the 62.2.
Yeah, this is pretty much bringing it up with ASHRAE 62.4. That, yeah.
And all I'm saying is that Palo Alto Building Inspection has an expectation from architects and engineers. And if we can understand what that expectation is up front, it makes it easier for us to provide you with information.
Well, and that's why we're giving this presentation. We're going to put it online so you guys can see what are changes, and then we're giving you the site of where Palo Alto Muni Code is. I myself was, from beginning, I've been always trying to push for less amendments, and even those amendments that we have to be in line with other jurisdictions. And that's why with that TUCC, we sit down and we talk about different things. We try not to be drastically different from other jurisdictions because it really just doesn't justify it. And remember, we have to justify it to the state too. Every time we make a code change amendment, we have to tell them why we have to have this in Palo Alto. So I personally don't think that we have a whole lot of amendments here in Palo Alto. But, you know, some of them are exclusive to Palo Alto. But what can I say? Yes?
I just have a quick question, very specific about this. Has there been a change in the residential code to the conventional light framing rules?
Not that I know. No. In fact, a residential code, the CRC or IRC, the portion that we most use is Chapter 3, the planning part, the first maybe 20 or 25 pages. Once it goes beyond that or other chapters, there's much less, in my opinion, use for them. I mean, how many times have you seen a conventional construction with masonry or concrete? I mean, it's all in the code because California took it from I-code, from model code, and put it in there. Well, it's in the I-code because they do that in Nebraska or somewhere else. But we have it in California, but just about every project I see, residential, that come to plan review, has got some engineer that is designing the building with, you know, calculations and everything. So it doesn't comply with conventional construction per se. So that portion hasn't changed much, and even if it changes, it really doesn't affect us a whole lot. Yes?
Adding to what David said as a CODA, if there would be possible, again, to, I keep saying this, summarize the significant changes as you see them
Mm-hmm.
in this context. Often we find ourselves adding the code to the drawings.
Mm-hmm.
Turn our documents, they're compliant as far as we can tell,
Mm-hmm.
but we are, in our plan check comments, we're asked to write on that it complies to this, write on we're applying to this standard,
Mm.
write that we saw this, write we can change this. If we had that checklist of what you guys are using of what you want to see as a note on the drawing
Mm-hmm.
relative to the changes,
Mhm.
that tells the plan checker that we're aware of it. Yes, we know that if we're changing this,
Mhm.
we're going to have to replace all of the plumbing fixtures in the house to comply. That would be a note that we could do, and that's a good example of the kind of thing which I know your plan checkers are going to do, and your field inspectors are going to be looking for.
Yep.
So it would be good if we had that kind of three-way knowledge
Mm-hmm.
in a checklist. I hate to put it that way, but
Yeah.
it's very
No, I understand what you're saying. In fact, On the green code, we have a checklist that we have put on our website for you guys to use. It's all PDF except for the last column that you guys can add into it to say, this section of the green code, I am showing it on page so-and-so. This one I'm showing. If you paste that to the drawings, yeah, and then the plan checker will just see what you have in there, and then the inspector will see where these requirements are, which sheet there are, they turn the page and it's there. But I will brief these requirements that we have, these amendments that we have, and post them on the website. Yeah. Ken? Yeah, I get a lot of calls, and I get them transferred from our secretary. Some of them, I have no idea what they're asking, but I know who would be the person to answer those. So I send them to that person. Some plumbing mechanical come in, I send them to Brent. Or something else comes in that has got to do with public works, I give it to public works person. I believe, but I'm not sure, that all the phone numbers are listed. Are they listed, Brent? On the Yeah, but call me, guys. I mean, if I can answer them, I will. If not, I know who would be the person to answer those questions. So, okay. Any other questions? By the way, this proceeding was taped, was recorded, and we will put that also on our website for those that weren't here. The only thing is, having this microphone, those of you that spoke probably didn't record it because we needed the other microphone that was not available, so sorry about that. So thank you for coming.